everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know who this is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast, Rolling Stone says, initiates profound discussions with rock and metal artists, allowing fans to discover the creative workflow of their favorite musicians and understand the factors that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We are also sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your custom computing needs. Get $100 off your entire bill with code CPPod at darkfusionsystems.com. Link to the podcast below. Guys, earlier in the year, we had a band on Reddit reach out to us called Advents. Well, I got an email about how they are signed to InVogue Records now, and find out that whole entire story about InVogue Records, the brand new music they got coming out, including the deep dive into the song Liminal, and why it's important to have attention to detail. Yeah, that's a huge theme of this episode, but are you guys ready? Yeah, you are. Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. Back at the beginning of 2024, this band reached out to me via Reddit to be on the podcast, and that was the first time that ever happened. So we made it happen. We brought these two guys on, and it was a fantastic time. Well, recently, I got an email about these guys joining the InVogue record team and becoming part of that label, getting signed, and their PR firm asked, hey, you want to interview these guys? Of course, I pretty much dropped everything I could at that moment and be like, wait a minute, these guys that reached out to me on Reddit are signed to a label right now? Hell yeah, we got to talk to these guys, along with a brand new song called Liminal, which is out now for you guys to check out. Let's welcome these guys back. So please welcome back Joe and Spizz from Advent to the podcast. So guys, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, and I feel like you need a soundboard where you can hit a button and there's just a cheering audience. Because your energy needs the button, the audience button.
Honestly, why don't I just put that back in like the post part of this and just like have this little like cheering section behind it, and all of a sudden maybe someone chanting going like USA, USA, just to really amp it up.
Let's do it.
We could make that happen. Otherwise, just get like some like sort of wrestling pop style like cheering. Like I need like Stone Cold walking into that Mankind Rock title match at the end of 1998. Just the crowd going absolutely bonkers to see Mankind win the title. Like that's the reaction we need in that sort of like backing crowd energy.
I love that. Let's do it. Get it.
We'll make it happen. And well, first thing I got to ask you guys, because the last time I had you on, like I said, you guys reached out to me via Reddit with the EP Persona Melodies coming out. Since then, I don't know what the hell has happened with you guys. All I know is the fact that you guys signed to InVogue Records. So over the past like 7 months, like how did all this happen? I got to hear this story because this has to be good.
All right. I'll let Joe take it away.
We've been hard at work. We've just been working on singles, working on plans, and I guess people have been hearing it because InVogue was interested, and we've heard a lot about InVogue over the time we've been a band, and we've heard about Thriller since they've been a thing. And together with our manager and them, they reached out, and we just talked about our goals, our plans, sent them some stuff that we were working on, and made it happen. So they've been great so far. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into all that, but team's been great. They get our vision. They like the songs. We're sending them stuff we're working on now, and we just kind of just full steam ahead into the future.
I was going to say that. I was going to really say full speed ahead.
Yeah, we'll hit all the cliches throughout this, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, it's been fun. We obviously only one song so far, but we got like, it almost feels like Liminal's old at this point because of how much we've been doing since that song's been done. So, yeah, they've been great so far. They just perfectly in line with what we're trying to do.
Yeah, the story isn't anything crazy. It was kind of just like we were offered, and then we went through the whole spiel, and then that was it. And then we were just excited to get the next song out. So it's been cool. We're just getting started, but so far so good.
Yeah,
I would have to say so far so good. I mean, the main thing always inquiring about is when it came to getting on InVogue, did they reach out directly to you, or were you? It was like the old school style of everyone like trying to send their mixtapes into records. You guys like spamming them with their music, like, "Hey, check us out, and then got on. I mean, like, how did this all actually like really go down? Because that's always what I'm curious about, so that other bands get to know, especially coming from your standpoint, how hard you worked, and then was it something that they reached out to you, or did you reach out to them? How did this all come into play?
I think it's like it's like a series of events. We don't really reach out to anyone. We never really expected. We just always just worked. Me and Koza a lot. Just marketing and our music, and obviously everybody in the studio just doing our best to make the best music and make it look the highest quality, and just putting, I mean, it's like kind of like a restaurant. If you have a restaurant, they're like, if the food's good and you spend the money on like attention to quality, you pay your staff good, take care of them, and then usually the business flourishes. And I guess in this scenario it's kind of the same way, where we, since day one, we always put our best foot forward. So as for like how that happened, I don't think there's a certified surefire answer to that. But as far as I can say is just like just keep doing the thing. But we never reached out to anyone. They reached out to us, and we were happy to oblige, and for other people, I would just say, like, I know again it's cliche, but just keep working at your craft, and keep meeting the right people. Don't stay in one lane. Change your lanes, network, talk to people, and eventually your music will get in front of somebody, and then you never know. There's a lot of bands right now, who knows, they could be being looked at right now, don't even realize it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the restaurant analogy that you just made actually makes a lot of sense, because when you think about it from that business standpoint, of course, the quality of the food is, in that case, is going to be the most important thing. Where when it comes to a band, it's the quality of the music that's going to be the most important thing, because without that, then there's really nothing there. Without that, there is no product in terms of the overall like business or marketplace standpoint. But when you're taking attention to detail, attention to the promotion, attention to the ingredients that are going in there, attention to, making sure everything is in the right place and not skipping a beat, basically kind of like watching the cents, and the dollars will take care of themselves. In that capacity, people are going to want to go and check out that restaurant. People are going to want to go and check out your music and be more interested because of how much time and effort you're putting into it, into the fine details to make it as best as possible. And then because of how high quality it is, because people are hearing about it, because people are going to it, then you're going to have those other people that are a little bit more, prominent, have a little bit more sway and things to help you out, reach out because of the connection that you're making to them through the quality of music, because of how much time and effort you're putting in there. So I love that restaurant analogy, man. It actually makes perfect sense. And I think, again, the key, attention to detail in everything that you do, because so many bands are going to miss out on that because promotion, social media, your outreach, that kind of stuff, it's not the creative, sexy work. And a lot of times people don't want to do the non-creative or mundane, over repetitive tasks.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like there's aspects before we got signed that maybe we weren't completely. I don't want to, like, if there's anyone listening to this who's like, I want to, get signed to a label and all this stuff. It's like, I would just say, like, just, like you said, like, just attention to detail. And for us, it was, for at least speaking for myself, and I'm sure I said this in the last time we talked with you, is that, this was my last hurrah. I don't know about the other guys, but this is at least for me personally, my last dive into the music thing seriously. So we made sure, and we met the right people on the way, and it was like kind of like it was meant to be in a way. Like we were all supposed to meet each other. We were all supposed to write music, and then we met all the right people who helped us perfect our music and taught us things that we didn't know. And then we just listened and we applied it, and here we are.
I mean, that stands out. Again, attention to detail. It just stands out entirely. But the fact that you're with InVogue right now, because it's InVogue, sister label of Thriller, you just seen how that all connects together. I've seen a lot of that stuff really pop off and really work off, especially since Thriller's introduction, I want to say in 2022. Of course, you got Bob Becker, who founded Fearless, who's also founded Thriller, working within that as well. And every band that's on Thriller seems to be really doing well. I mean, I've had every band from Thriller that's currently on the roster on the podcast at one point. So I've had Avoid on, and Avoid is one of the most fun bands you'll ever see. I've had Honey or Revenge on, and that band, every time I ask people to like suggest bands to me, they are the most popular like suggestion based on how good they are. They even have Telly and The Word Alive there. on the label. And I've seen a band like If Not For Me literally go from a small development label to InVogue and then to Thriller over the course of like a year and a half. So there's definitely something that to be said for the bands that are on not only on Thriller but also on InVogue as well, that are going to end up creating this like build to something better. And you guys are in that InVogue just kind of like space as well, where there's so much still to be done and there's so much still to be seen from you guys that you could easily make the jump at the Thriller at some point. I mean, Thriller or InVogue has Stained the Canvas on there, a band that I've absolutely loved ever since I heard about them back in 2020. Dark Divine is on there. I'm pretty sure Dark Divine's going to get moved up to Thriller at some point. So there is a lot of great pedigree that's already been created over the past 2.5 years with those labels to get everybody to get to a much better spot and beyond. And now you guys are kind of in that system as well, because there's believability behind the band, believability behind the product and connectivity, because again, you guys have that attention to detail and the collective want to make sure this happens.
Yeah, for sure.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, you pretty much said it all. I was trying to think of something to add, but you hit every nail on the head right
You know,
there.
you kind of remind me of I keep saying this. I know you reminded me of someone last. You remind me of like Sean Evans, of like Hot Ones, like the way you reword, you turn around the answer. Sorry, it's
I'm going to take it as a major compliment, man. I'm going to thank you on that one. But a lot of that comes from just, I mean, I've been monitoring Thriller InVogue since Thriller basically started, because I think Avoid was their first signing, and I literally had Avoid on right before the signing was announced. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of a part of this in a way. And then it's just constantly monitoring every band I have in the podcast, seeing them grow, seeing what happens, and seeing the positivity and the continued growth that bands from InVogue and Thriller have had. Now you guys are in that pipeline, which makes me ecstatic due to the fact that you guys are taking this seriously. And again, with the EP release that happened back in January, which brought you guys to the podcast via Reddit, it just all is insane to see the growth that you guys have had over the past 7 months to get to this point. But the bigger thing that I have now is you guys have done this. I know where the potential for the band is, but I want to see this continue to go. I want to see you continue to go further. So you guys are in the best spot possible.
Yeah, we appreciate that. It's a little surreal to us, I think, still, because we kind of, again, like Spizz was saying, from the beginning, we took this obviously very seriously. We tried to line up all the pieces from the start, pay very close attention to all the details, but now it's kind of like sometimes we look at each other and we're like, InVogue, Thriller, like it hasn't been, we're only 9-10 songs in, and it's a pretty cool feeling. So, and it's cool because like, guys like you, people like you are super enthusiastic about it. We're hitting a bunch of new people, especially on this new song, and they're asking us to play shows all over the place. And I think we're trying to still wrap our heads around the whole thing a little bit and just know how much we have ahead of us. And we're all dudes that work regular jobs and stuff. So we're trying to adjust to this whole period, but it's been really good so far.
It's going to be a major adjustment too, just because now there's more money behind the band. There's more of a serious aspect that comes to the viability of what is to come, just because, like you said, now there is a label that's behind you. And I'm not surprised you guys are getting show offers or maybe even tour offers in there, because there is such a connection to Thriller and InVogue when it comes to quality, and it shows with your attention to detail with the songs you've released so far. Beyond that as well, I mean, in your minds, what's been the biggest struggle to really wrap your heads around this now as the signing's been announced, to where you guys were when it came to doing this on your own and still having full-time jobs, to now, okay, a label's behind us. How do we work within this to make sure that, we continue growing, but at the same time, you're not going to be put so far behind financially where that strain ends up impacting you guys in other aspects? Because I know that is a huge thing. And I want to ask that question because there are probably many other artists out there that want to have this opportunity. And if they get this opportunity, what are some of those things that are going to come up that they have to eventually think about?
Yeah, I think we kind of came to terms with that, with the signing, that there's gonna be a shift at some point. Obviously financially, like I work for like a demolition company, and I know I know Koza works from home for like, I won't speak for him, but I know some of us have jobs that we can go back to. Some of us don't. But it's something that we all already know are willing to make the change. And because it's our passion, it's something, we love doing. And I mean, again, I'm speaking for myself. It's like I'm willing, I will drop everything just to make it work. And if it doesn't, then at least I tried. And so I'm just gonna keep doing that and keep pushing myself creatively, musically, and even, I mean, I guess pushing myself financially wouldn't really make sense. Pushing myself, my sanity with finance. Oh my God, my brain. Pushing myself in a way where I don't lose my mind with my financials would I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but majorly, yeah, I guess it's something that we're all gonna have to adjust to, and we're already kind of going through that process now slowly. But we're all prepared for what's to come. We've all talked about it, and I think we're definitely ready. So if that answers your question.
So that answers my question from your perspective, Spizz. But what about you, Joe? Because especially if you have a job where you can essentially work from home, that does also change up a little bit of the thought process too. Because if I know guys that have had interviewed on the podcast before where they're on tour and during the day, they're on like whatever work computer they're on and actually doing a full-time job at that standpoint. So what's the mindset like for you with this type of transition?
I wouldn't say I'm struggling with anything. It's just again a lot to wrap my head around because I have toured in the past, but I wasn't working a job at the same time, and that was a lot. So now I'm, thinking about having to do both at the same time. It's not so much the job thing. I think it's just like the adjustment from one. Like at touring I did in the past, I was gone for a couple months straight, and it's like your whole life starts to revolve around that. Like you can't plan things a couple months ahead sometimes because you're like, I don't know if we're going to get another tour offer or when I'm going to be gone again. So I'm kind of prepping for that a little bit. Like girlfriend wants to take a trip. It's like, I don't know if I can book that right now because I don't know what's coming up. So that's going to be something to kind of adapt to. And then job wise, I guess just fitting it in where I can. I'm just like kind of going for it. I think that's one thing I could give to having done it before and then getting ready to do it again now. One thing I would say to bands trying to do this is you can't, like, it's kind of all or nothing if you're trying to do it at this level. It's
Have your cake and eat it too.
and yeah, you really need to be all for it. It can't just be like hey, I'd like to, play drums or play guitar in a band. It'd be cool to go on tour. Like there's going to be moments that will test you, and I could speak from experience with that. And you kind of just, even on the way up, and we're not at the top. I like to think we've made progress even since we last spoke, but you're going to get punched in the face more times than you can count. Since I started playing my instrument 15 years ago, it's like I'm kind of nuts for even still sitting here talking to you. Like there's something wrong with us, I think, to still be here trying this. But when you see people like reaching out and talking about your music, and we went to video the other day and somebody commented on one of our videos because we check them every so often, and somebody was like, this song saved my life. And we're just kind of like, what? Like it's so cool, but we're just like, it's kind of doesn't make sense. Like we're just doing what we want to do and prepping for everything to come. So I know I went on a tangent, but just being committed and just knowing like you'll find a way to do it somehow. The bills will get paid. You'll get the hours in. There's always a way. You just have to get creative with it, I think.
Well, that was the type of question to go on a tangent to, definitely, because it really shows not only us as an audience or us as fans, but other band members as well, and bands and other artists that are aspiring to do this, to see sort of the things that you potentially have to deal with when you get to this certain level. And yet you guys definitely have made progress since the last time we spoke, because you guys signed to a record label since the last time we spoke. I mean, you've got people that are reaching out on behalf of you to set stuff up like this. You've got people reaching out on behalf of you to get you guys tour offers and show offers. It is a massive step forward. And yes, there have probably been, times where you've been punched in the face. Even for myself with this podcast, I can attest to it. There's plenty of time I've been punched in the face over the past 5.5 years that have made me sometimes question if I'm actually doing the right thing and maybe quit. But we're still here. We're still having a blast. And I love what you really brought up, Joe, because it shows just what people have to expect, especially around when you get to this certain standpoint, how it's all or nothing when you get to this level. And if you're not fully invested in it, then it kind of comes to a competition standpoint. There's going to be other bands that are much more heavily invested into what they're doing and to making that happen, so that when those offers come up, they're going to be the ones that get it, because there's a consistency behind there and there's a continued dedication of the craft as you get to that standpoint. Of course, you might have to juggle a couple of things at certain times, but that's all dependent upon how you're able to really take those priorities and figure out how they're going to work best for you in this moment. But Spizz, what you also said too really stands out for everybody else is, you don't want to end up going into this and just half-assing it in a way. It's like, it's got to be all or nothing. And if you're going to go into this, you want to go full on into this, so that if it works out, fantastic. That is a great thing. But if for some reason it doesn't work out, which for you guys, I don't see that happening, because you guys have such attention to detail and such power behind your overall music, it ain't going to happen. But if it's for some reason, other bands, doesn't happen, at least you tried, and you're not going to go through life wishing that, oh, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have tried this. I wish I would have even gone for it and not played it safe. You're not going to be sitting in a, rocking chair at 90 with a Miller Lite in your hand thinking, I wish I would have done something else. Like, you guys gave it a shot, and that's something that no one's going to be able to ever take away from you. No one's going to ever be able to take away the fact that you guys got signed to a record label from you. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, we appreciate hearing that, because sometimes we, especially Spizz and I, will look at each other like, what's going on here when things aren't going well. But then when things do go your way, you're just like, I'm glad we stuck that out, and we're seeing it through. And I've had those moments in the past. I mean, I'm not old, but I'm going to be 30 this year. And it's like, I remember I got out of school and started with 9-to-5 jobs, and always was trying to figure out, like, I was in cover bands, stuff like that. Walk into the office every day and I'm like, got to go on tour. What does it feel like to go on tour? I have to experience going on tour. And it ended up quitting that job, one of those jobs, to go on tour. And everybody supported me, but I could tell there were some looks like, are you sure you're going to play drums in a band? And it's like, it's in a weird way, it told me I was on to something. And it's like, now we're sitting here talking about signing to a label that we, look up to, and with all these bands that we listen to, like, we love Avoid, we love Catch Your Breath, we love the Home Team, like all these bands. And we're like, got the same team of people working on our shit. Like, it's just, you never know what can happen. Just, that's the biggest thing I could say, is like, not to hit another cliche, but like, you don't know unless you try. Like, you just have to go for what you believe in, and you could surprise yourself, I think.
Dude, you kind of scared me when you said that I'm turning 30 by the end of the year and this is what you're doing. Because I'm like, I'm in the same boat, man. What the hell? Like, I feel the same way.
To me, that's a little surreal. Just the number. I know it's not old. It's just the number that keeps creeping in. It's the 30. And I know once it hits, I'll be like, all right, whatever. Won't care. But just the fact that it's coming up, I'm like, God damn.
Yeah, I know the feeling too, but I kind of look at it as a way as, if like you look at it too, because when I started the whole podcast and everything, it was all based on the fact that after I got into a full-time job, I couldn't stand it. And I absolutely hated how life was going to turn out if I just stuck with it. So I needed something for myself. So started this, and I got the weird looks when I brought up, hey, I interview bands and I help bands out for, like, as what I want to do for a living. Yeah, I do a podcast and everything like that. And everyone's like, sure about that? You could be focusing you could be putting your money into something else, like, potentially buying a house or buying a new car. I'm like, do I really need that stuff if that's going to make me miserable because I'm not doing this? Come on. So you guys, I can see, Joe, you kind of take that same mentality, and it absolutely seems like it worked out for you, because look at where you are right now. You signed to InVogue, you got a record deal. And I'm pretty sure, Spizz, you felt the same way at times too, when people may have come up to you and said, you're in a band, or you're trying to make it as a band, when you could be making a lot more money just focusing on demolition. But look at where you are now. So you can always look and be like, I got a record deal. Ha 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 ha. But now what's next? Because we can't just rest on that.
Well, thankfully, my coworkers respect my hustle, and they're actually happy. They were happy when they found out. So that was good.
Did you guys blow something up in like celebration?
No.
Oh.
It's like, I'm like, I am going to Nashville for 2 weeks. and I'm like, we're writing an album, and I got signed to a record label, and I was like, oh my God, it's so cool. And I think that in their minds, it meant way more than it did in mine, because they're like, oh my God, you're gonna be famous. I'm just like, no, not really. But I'm like, I'm just, maybe one day, but not right now. So the expectations there,
Yeah.
but I just went with it. I was like, yeah, sure. Okay.
That's the one line I would say I've gotten the most too is you're going to be famous. That's what everybody is the most and like seems to be the most concerned with. And I'm like, I don't really know about that, but thanks. Like it's cool. But it's funny that famous is I don't know about you, Spizz, but that the people that know, it's like that's the word that I hear the most is famous. I don't know why. I
Yeah, I
guess
get
that's
that.
what pops into people's heads first.
Yeah, people don't
But
understand. Like they're just like, oh, like that doesn't happen often. You're going to be famous. Like, I'm like,
which is true, to be fair. I mean, this isn't something that happens every day. It's just to us, it's kind of like we're like we're just so focused on what we're trying to do. So it's kind of like cool, celebrated. What's the plan for the next song? Like we're kind of just like we celebrated, but we're not just resting on it. We're kind of like, all right, we're already like 5 songs ahead. We were talking today about something that's happening next spring, and it's like we're not even in the fall yet, you
we're
know?
always chasing that next dopamine hit. Always chasing it.
Mhm.
Maybe not necessarily chasing the next dopamine hit, but going back to one of the main themes of this podcast already, attention to detail. Because if people are focused on, oh, you're going to be famous and everything, people that know about everything with the music industry know that signing a record deal does not equal getting famous. But it is a next step towards getting that. But the focus for you guys is just on what's coming next. What are you doing next? What's coming next for the promotion of the band? What's coming next for the brand new music? What's coming next for live shows? What's coming next for the overall growth going forward? So that, eventually, maybe you guys in the next year or so, I get another email that says, hey, you want to talk to Advents again? They're signing to Thriller now. And I'll be like, I knew it. Yep, bring them back on. And then just see the continued progression going forward there to the point where by the end of, the 2020s, Thriller and InVogue are just on like the exact same level as someone like, like Sharp Tone or epsidoe, just like how big those labels have gotten, especially in the scene. Just like, I mean, it's getting there. And just gets to the point where anytime there's a band on that label, it's like, we must check out this band. And there's going to be continued knowledge of these bands mean quality. On Thriller and InVogue right now, that is there. But I want to see that get to the overall masses when it comes to find out about these bands and find about these signings and who's behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, they've been great so far. And like I said, we're just fans of everything they've done. So it's like, it's honestly an honor to just be included in that group.
Yeah.
And you guys are now fully a part of it. And of course, you and with the announcement as well, a brand new song called Liminal was released. So let's dive into that bad boy so everyone gets to know exactly what the first offering from Advents is off of, a signing to InVogue. So when it came to writing Liminal, I know you guys already had written this, but what was the overall like writing process behind this song, the overall thought process behind this, so that people can really get in the know with Advents and really get ready for what you guys are about to release next?
You want to go, Koza?
You kick it off. I'll chime in. I'll preface it by saying we're going to have 2 different approaches to what we talk about, at least lyrically. So I'll let Spizz take it away because the song started with him, and then I'll give my take on it.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I mean, writing it, if we're talking about like writing in the studio with the song, or are you talking about like the general meaning of the song?
You can go both ways if you want to on that one, man. I'm good with either.
Okay. So more, I guess, writing the song wise, this song's probably one of our more lighter songs that we've written so far. And I guess the main intention of going into it was kind of like hitting that atmosphere, like with all these songs coming up, like we really lean into atmosphere, and just bringing like a certain vibe, which I guess the artwork kind of conveys that vibe. It's like this ethereal night, like kind of like cozy, like, but also like something's looming in the dark, if that makes any sense. But yeah, that was kind of the vibe that we started getting as we were writing these songs. And Liminal was, I think, if I'm correct, was probably the one, I think the first one we worked on off this new album, I guess, if I could say album. But yeah, we're working on an album right now, and these songs are on that album, the ones that are coming out upcoming, and the ones that came out now. But um, yeah, I guess it was just more so writing that vibe, getting that vibe down, nailing that down, and then beyond that, I kind of started thinking about the lyrics and um, kind of like this space where like you're in between the bad and the good, liminal space in between, and kind of like when you kind of you want to do bad things, but you're fully aware of what like the repercussions would be. So it's kind of like in the music video. I don't know if you saw the music video. I think the music video does a good idea of showing that where while being vague as well. You have the girl in the white and the girl in the black, and they live with each other because they're kind of like in tandem with each other. It's like where your bad wants and your good wants can kind of be in harmony, but also can't necessarily be together. Again, I'm horrible at explaining this. This is usually why I tell Koza to explain things because I'm very bad at it, and I always get in my head as I'm talking about it. So my apologies if I'm like all over the place. But moral of the story is that like lyrically, because like I said, me and Koza kind of we wrote this song together, so the meanings kind of got lost in translation, but that's kind of what we wanted to begin with because we don't want it to be very straightforward. But it's kind of like you're in a space between like fighting between what's right and what feels right, and that's kind of like what I guess symbolizes those two women in that video. Kind of like they kind of like they live with each other, but they're also kind of like they're opposites. They're white and they're black, but they can coexist. And that's why in the video, I think you see them one on the left, one on the right, and you see me in the middle. While I'm sitting down, it's kind of supposed to be the explanation between like liminal space. Anyway, go Kozlik. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because we started. I do remember Liminal being the first, and Liminal. I remember the most working on those lyrics out of any songs that we have done lyrically so far. Um, and I remember that Spizz had "We're Better Off Dead" first, that line, and he had "The silence stings, but it's the silence stings, it's golden." It was a different melody originally, and then we kind of moved things around. But we were kind of just going back and forth and chewing on ideas. And then I think usually, I mean, let's be honest, you're writing lyrics, you're trying to think of things that rhyme, but having it, fit into what you're trying to do. Ideally for us, it's catchy if it rhymes. So we're trying to find words, and something about liminal space stuck out. But my head went in a completely different direction than Spizz's, where he was talking like, yeah, the good and the bad, and it was kind of like temptation versus
like what you think is right. Like
what you think is right or righteous or morally correct or whatever you want to apply it to. For myself, it was kind of more geared towards like a particular experience, like consciousness is liminal. Without getting too detailed, I mean, again, we're better off dead. You could take very literally, like you want to be dead. We applied it in some ways to a relationship, meaning the two people could be better off dead. And for me in particular, an experience I had a while back, and I literally was awake from midnight, probably whenever I went to bed, till maybe 5, 6 in the morning, did not sleep because of a decision and something I knew that needed to be done. I'll let you fill in the blanks where I was in the middle. And not to get too literal about the lyrics, but I mean, you could interpret this any way you want. But if you can't shine the light on the situation, I guess the darkness feels all right for now. So like, it's kind of cool because Spizz looks at this completely differently than me lyrically, but it all makes sense in the way that we ping back and forth. It kind of just flows, and that's kind of the writing style we've kind of adopted at this point. And even for the songs coming up, a lot of the stuff we're working on now is cool like that because we're not it's not like a one-to-one. Like this song is about this. Like you can interpret these songs. I've spoken to friends, family of mine, and they're like, is this song about this? And it's not any of this. We probably had this conversation last time, Red 13, about my brain and stuff. Like nobody, we want it to be for the listener, but we do have our meanings that we go in with. So that's something that we'll probably continue with into the future.
Yeah, we did talk about that last time, especially with Red 13, but it makes sense, but especially why there's such a strong connection emotionally for these lyrics and for the song overall, because the way Spizz looks at it and because the way you look at it, it's going to take on a completely different meaning from a specification standpoint, but the overall idea and emotion is going to be where it all hits into play and connects, so that when you're working on the song from an instrumental standpoint, from a lyrical standpoint, you can take this in so many different directions, but you still have that emotional core that's going to drive it so that everyone can really bring forward some piece of relation to when they hear it. Because when I was going through it, oddly enough, I kind of split down the middle between the both of you, because I was thinking about it from more of like, I thought about insomnia as well when listening through it and watching the music video and really trying to get deep into it, because when we're in like either a broken relationship, whether it's something that's not going well at that standpoint, or you've been separated from that person, we get consumed so mentally that we will lose sleep and we will eventually lose consciousness over it. And we'll be stuck in limbo to where we can't move forward because we're so exhausted, because we're just mentally not there. But if we try and move forward, then there's times where we get stuck in it because that's all we can think about. So when we try and shine a light on what is happening, we fail to get out of it because we're so mentally involved in it. And it could be our own doing. It could be influence from another person. It could be either or. It sucks that we might be better off dead and in the dark, because at times it feels like that is just comforting, even though we know it's not the right thing. But it's about kind of embracing that suck overall, because you can get out of this as long as you just have hope. Because Koza, you got out of it, and look at where you are. Me, this happened to me 7 years ago, and I'm still here with it. But it also makes an absolute major standpoint of making that decision from what you know is right to what feels right at the time, because what might feel right at the time does not actually end up working with what is right. But because you're so stuck in that like liminal space where you don't know which way to go, sometimes you go with what feels right just based on the fact that you want to get that piece of positivity from that direct moment, even if you know that later on down the line there's going to be negative consequences that come off of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said it perfectly. And I think that's, I think he's breaking up. You still got him?
Yeah, I still got him.
No, I just said I love it how he explained it better than both of us.
Oh yeah, no, I thought the connection broke up. Yeah, you really did, honestly. There, I think the fact that all these experiences are so human, is why bands can keep talking about. Like you hear like a band wrote a song about a relationship. It's like how many times has that been done since like the 1940s, probably 1950s? But it's like there's always a new way to say it. There's always an individual perspective to come at it from. People are always going to relate to it. And you can, with the language being used a certain way, I guess, to convey those feelings, you could apply it to whatever you're going through. And that's, I mean, Spizz and I talk about lyrics and bands that we like growing up all the time, the whole band really, but just because we're doing most of the lyrics together now. And we related to a lot of the same stuff. And then even all of us in the band, like we grew up on a lot of the same things. And we were like I remember we were driving up to, even aside from lyrics, we were driving up to Buffalo to track drums for these new songs. And we were listening to we were doing like crazy throwback stuff. We were listening to a lot of Trivium for whatever reason. And like Spizz is a drummer. Obviously I play drums, and we were like choking the cymbal at the same part in the same songs. And I'm like, we were both in middle school. Like we didn't know each other at all. And the same thing stuck out to us. So it's cool because now hopefully kids are listening to us all over the place, doing the same things to the stuff that we're writing. So it's like, I think that's like one of the coolest parts for me personally throughout all of this, just getting people to relate to what we're doing, musically, lyrically, and just refining it and hopefully improving as we go.
Why'd you have to say Trivium? Because I was listening to Trivium on my way home from the gym to get here in time to do this. So this is like really, really freaky at the same time.
They got some bops. We went back to, what were we listening to? Ascendancy, I think, a lot. And
definitely
Shogun.
Yeah, Shogun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All the classics, the Crusade. We're going through all of it.
Yeah, you guys were listening to that, and I was listening, I was listening to stuff like off of what the Dead Men saying in the Court of the Dragon on the way home. So
yeah.
I stuck on the
They're
newer
still-
side of Trivium.
Yeah.
They're one of the more consistent bands over the years for sure.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, even in 2015 when Matt's vocals went out too, it was like you can still hear the melody in there. You can still hear the emotion in there. It just had a much different flavor to it because it didn't have the absolute aggressiveness that you got from Uncleans. But then all of a sudden 2017 comes around. They open with the sit in the sentence and you hear Alex on the drums and you're like, holy crap, are they back? And then when Matt finally screams for the first time, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
consistency
Alex
returns.
Alex is so good. I remember I saw him with Battlecross back in 2015 or so. Funny story, actually. The guitarist of our band now opened that show. Had no idea who he was either. Small club in New Jersey, and now I'm in a band with him. So go figure. Put that one together.
Go
But
figure.
yeah, Alex is crazy on drums for sure.
Yeah, then the guy that Alex replaced, it's like, oh, I wonder what he's doing right now. Oh, that guy's just drumming for From Ashes to New, and everything worked out just fine.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's sick.
Yeah, Matt
Good for him.
Madero was on Silence in the Snow, and then Until the World Goes Cold. I can't remember the name of the album. I know it's one of those two. And then just ended up, style didn't work out, and he goes to From Ashes to New, and I talked with him about it. He's like, I love where Trivium is now. I love where I'm at now. Everyone's happy. It's like, yay.
Nice. Good to hear.
Random little tidbit of information, everybody in there. But going back to Liminal, especially from the sound and like overall atmosphere of it, putting in that overall atmospheric style for a song like this absolutely stands out because when you hear that overall atmospheric vibe, it adds a cinematic feel to it, but it adds this overall like out-of-body experience, overworldly feel to where you can go back into your own mind, review those times in life where you went through what you're feeling and really get a look at it and really feel the power that's behind it and really see not only where you were at that time, but how you got out of it, how you ended up going about it, and where you end up seeing those pitfalls so that you can essentially review that moment in your mind and begin to build back up on yourself so you don't fall back into that. But especially when, you have a lot of that atmosphere stuff, there have been times where I've heard bands, all right, if you go way too heavy on the atmosphere, you can end up getting lost in the shuffle and the song can end up losing some of that hook and some of that power. That's when you guys brought in that bridge and breakdown. I'm like, yep, they definitely found that spot where it's like, okay, get ready for absolute mayhem and boom. But it absolutely works out for the overall atmosphere of the song as well. Not only to break it up, but to give that overall emotional charge that you need to break out of that liminal headspace.
Yeah.
It's an excellent way of putting it. I might steal that for the future.
Steal it.
I'm gonna steal a lot of things from this interview.
Yeah. You want to join the band and do
Join the
interviews
band.
for us?
Honestly,
you're better at describing this than us.
You can use AI. It's all right. We'll just put. I'm joking.
Can Thriller and Vogue end up hiring me to do some of this stuff for you guys then? Not only for you guys, but like for every other band as well, because I've had every band from Thriller on the podcast so far. I'd be absolutely do it. I've had like half from InVogue. I would do it for them too. Like, you guys just end up getting added to the mix now. Like, hey, Mr. Bob Becker, can we make this happen? Because I can just start writing the press releases. Like, what does this mean? Let Kevin just write it and let's just hope for the best.
Do you have any experience writing, or have you just done interview format? Have you ever done like album reviews or anything like that? Or
I've never done them written. I've always done them on YouTube or like video format. And I mean, I haven't done an album review since like I think the last album review I did was 2021 with Welcome to Horrorwood.
Okay, interesting. That was 2021.
That was
God
2021. That was 3 years ago. The next one that I might end up jumping into is whenever Rise Against releases their new album. Because I'm like, I'm such a huge Rise Against fan. I'm like, I might just go and do it just as like a one-off because I can't help myself.
Wait, are they actually releasing a new album, or are they?
I remember we had the Rise Against talk last time. It's all coming back to me.
It's all coming back. Yeah, I know they worked on they're recording new music in like some point this year. I know they're on tour right now in Europe and they are playing a brand new song. I'm expecting an album announcement to come like at some point in October when they start their US run. So.
Yeah.
Let's hope, guys. Let's really hope.
I'm hoping too.
And then let's hope, that because I know you guys said you're working on more songs. You guys are working on essentially an album. So let's hope that when that happens, everyone's like, oh my God, we need to hear this now. And then Maybe it's a, not even a release on InVogue. Maybe it's a release on Thriller at that point. Did I say that? Yeah, I did.
I wish. I hope
You
you're
said
right.
it first. If it comes through, we'll send you something.
Well, no,
for
the funny thing
predicting
is if it does happen and all of a sudden you guys are releasing that record with Thriller, I'm going to get the announcement about it. I'm going to end up getting a notification on it via email. It's going to be like, hey, signed to Thriller, new album, wanted to interview? Answer will be Y-E, yes, let's make it happen.
You'll be the first one if we can help it. We'll make sure you're the first one.
Oh, if I see that email come through, I'm just email them right back right away and just make it happen. When? I don't care when, as soon as possible. Hell, just send me the album. We'll do it in 24 hours. Will it put me in a constraint? Yes. Will I do it though? Yes.
Sometimes it has to be done on short notice.
Sometimes
those are the best things. Some of the best things are last minute, and you're kind of on the fence. Not that you'd be on the fence, but you're on the fence about going somewhere, doing something, and then it turns out to be the only decision. So,
oh yeah, I've had episodes where it's like, can you do this literally tomorrow? I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. I got to review a whole album in 12 hours when I still have to go to work for a full day. Let's do it.
Yep.
But it's all for the love of the craft, but also because attention to detail, my friends. If you want to make sure you do well and all this stuff, make sure you have that attention to detail down. It's very important.
Yeah.
Well, one other thing I want to ask you guys is, now that you guys are with InVogue, you guys I know are working on new music. Liminal's out for everyone to get into, but what else can we expect from Advents, not only the rest of 2024, but going into 2025 as well? Any tidbits you potentially want to, I'm going to say tease, because there's probably not a lot that you could officially say, but just, give us a little bit of give us a little bit of a worm to bait our hooks with, to be like, I want that.
Well, let me clarify. We were never told what we can and can't say, because I don't think we've had that conversation with them. But I mean, I stay tuned. We're still writing the album right now. And we have some surprises. Some surprises. We still have, I think we have a few songs coming out this year. So we're gonna keep slamming people over the head with those and pushing those the best we can. And next year, I guess, look forward to shows and an album. So
I will say there's the songs that are coming. I won't say too much, but I will give you something. There's some featured artists you might not expect. There are some parts to songs you might not expect.
Parts
and Spizz. We'll talk.
I'm trying to understand what you mean by that.
No, there's some parts to, maybe sounds you haven't heard from us before, but will still sound like us. Different things that you'll be like, okay, I see it, but you haven't heard yet. And we're definitely trying to play live more. We're trying to put the pieces together for that in more places than New Jersey. I'll leave it at that for now.
Well, I'll put it this way. I know you guys are going to be able to make that happen. Let's just hope it happens as good as possible. Let's hope it happens as efficiently as possible when it comes to getting out on the road, getting booked on some of these tours. And when it comes to some of those surprise moments in the new album and surprise features, what am I going to be expecting? Advents featuring Miley Cyrus, Advents featuring Vessel from Sleep Token. I'm trying to think of some Advents featuring Bob Becker literally doing a vocal part of the bridge.
You guessed it. You guessed it.
I guess
we were able to lock down Post Malone for one of the upcoming songs, so be on the lookout. No, I'm kidding. Definitely not. There's
definitely artists outside of our genre that we're collaborating with, I guess, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of sounds that we've wanted to mess with. A lot of vibes that, again, to speak for Spizz and I, that we're a fan of outside of what we do. And we're just trying to make stuff that we want to hear and would want to hear if we were an outside listener. So,
and big thank you to our producer too, because he helps a lot with, fleshing out our ideas and more to life. JD, we call him Jonathan DeLeese, JD, as we call him. And
he's become another member essentially.
Yeah, we actually we've been writing some more like it's kind of weird. Like well, I guess not to go into too much detail, but we kind of been writing like trying to make songs a little bit more like not poppy, but pop. But then we end up just making it poppy, but we also end up making it very heavy. Like how you said with like Liminal, where it's like, oh, it slaps you in the face, but like times like 5, where it just kind of like doesn't, you don't understand. So we wrote a couple of those. I'd say we wrote like half of the album already, and then the other half we're probably gonna lean in a little bit more on some heavy songs and more along the lines of what we have normally written. So
that's a good way to tease what you guys got upcoming. And I mean, I know I mentioned some crazy features out there, but if I'm gonna see an Advents featuring Chad Kroeger from Nickelback song, I'm gonna be all into it.
Oh yes, Chad Kroeger. If you're watching this right now,
yeah, if anybody can make that happen,
hit us up.
Free.
Yeah,
just tell Chad, look at this photograph, and just have like Advent's ex Chad Kroeger. It's just like every time I want it.
I'm sure he'll do it for free once we do that.
He'll do it just he'll do it for free. Or maybe I don't know what he'll do it for, but hopefully he'll do it for free. Well, guys, I got one more question before we wrap this up. I asked you this last time. I'm going to ask you it again. Can you guys give me 3 bands or artists that you love that you would love to see more people get into right now?
I'm pulling Spotify up.
I'm pulling Spotify up too because I can't think of one right off the top of my head, but I will say, we've been getting one of the artists that I would recommend is, and I love me some lo-fi music, like lo-fi vibey music. Something we're trying to implement pretty somewhat into our sound now with our new songs and everything. But I've been listening to, I guess I don't even call this underrated, but what are they called? I think it's Kyu, Kyu. It's like, and they're like it's like a lo-fi artist, and I love their music. I listen to it at work all the time. But sorry, again, Koza, if you got it, go, because I'm not.
To be honest, I always struggle with this question, but I think I got it. Some of them you might know. There's actually a band that kind of I don't know if they debuted around the same time as us on Dreambound, but this band called Alt, ALLT. They're really sick. I like what they're doing, kind of similar soundscapey stuff, kind of in the realm of what we do. So I plug them. I love this band called Unto Others. They were called Idle Hands a while back.
Okay.
They do like that gothic old school metal sound. And then I'm gonna plug this weird noise grind band called Skinwalker. It's some of the most vile, disgusting music you'll probably ever hear, and they have like 100 monthly listeners or something like that. And I don't know how I found them originally, but I've been addicted to them ever since. So check out Skinwalker if you get the chance and you're in the mood to just, I don't know, give yourself a headache.
Besides the Kyu, I have found the other 2 I'll choose. Half Me, I didn't know they were so underrated. They're 100,000. I've been jamming them. They randomly popped up on my Spotify, like recommended, and I forget which song it is. But I forget the name of this. Oh, Quitter Talk. That's the song that came up, and that song goes hard.
Yeah,
Like,
Half Me's cool.
It's simple, but like it's effective. And I was like, damn. And also, this band called Unprocessed. They're from Germany. I think they're one of my friends from Germany actually showed me them, and they're kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like very like clangy guitars, but very melodic. Like there's no like distortion or anything. It's like just it's a vibe. So Unprocessed.
Those are some good picks. And I got a little story about Half Me after this episode to share with you guys. It's going to be a good one. But guys, I want to thank you for being on the podcast once again. And I'm glad to have had you back because this is always incredible. So now 3 things to close this out. First things first, when it comes to advents, when it comes to finding them, when it comes to listening to Liminal, when it comes to just making sure you're in the know with these guys as they continue to grow, go to script for the podcast, which says find advents online, links and labels for everything, for social media, YouTube, where you can stream their music, where you can, get some merch from them, and where you can say update about shows is all down there for you. So go and check it out. I'm your own personal Google. So don't let me down and follow Advents. Now it's time for number 2. Guys, in the podcast back in January, and I said when the first time I get to see you guys play live, first round's on me. I've had you guys on the podcast twice. I've yet to see you play live. So first round becomes first 2. Oh, yeah.
Promise not to break your bank.
At this point, that's what's going to happen with the way inflation is, unless, maybe I just go and get like a case of beer or something and be like, go knock on the van doors. You guys open up. I'll be like, hey.
I think we talked about this last time, and I was like, I don't drink beer. You're going to have to bring me some something harder. But you don't have to. But the beer will be fun.
Alrighty, I'm getting him tequila then.
That works.
Oh, God.
We having a good time then.
Could be a night.
I'm going to start fighting.
It's going to be a good time. And now it's time for number 3. Koza and Spizz.
Start fighting.
I cannot end this podcast by saying goodbye because that's way too final. I made you guys the promise, and I know I'm going to have you back on the podcast again. Hopefully we don't have Spizz start fighting the next time we actually talk or meet in person with tequila. But guys, this is incredible. And once again, I'll see you later.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Well, folks, that was my interview with Spizz and Koza from the band Advent. And now it's time for Kevin's final thought. Attention to detail, attention to detail, attention to detail, attention to detail is the key here. So what Advent really brought up when it came to the idea of how they got on this record label and why they've had people reach out to them about it, and then where they're going forward with this is because they're so focused in on the attention to detail that they have control over. So when they were a growing band, they had such attention to detail to the marketing side of things, to the music, to the live show, to every aspect that was going on, and make sure that they were all in on this and that the band would succeed long term. Now that they're signed to InVogue, they're going to have some help from that aspect, but the attention to detail is still there for them to focus on what they want to do with their music, continue to grow, and to make sure it's as good as possible. And you take a look at Liminal with the atmospheric style to it and how the bridge and the breakdown smack you in the face. But on top of that as well, the attention to detail and how they write this stuff so that it can hit on that emotional core of whatever the topic of the song is and what the meaning of the lyrics are. But it can be done in such a way where someone like Koza and someone like Spizz, who are writing this stuff, can have 2 completely different perspectives on it and grow from it as well. It's an incredible thing, and this is not a band to be missing out on. I'm glad I got to talk to them, not only when they reached out to me on Reddit, but now that they're on InVogue. Hopefully, they have an arc like, if not for me, has had, where they join InVogue, and then literally the next year I get to interview them, and they're on Thriller. That's my hope, and they continue to grow. So let's see it happen. When it comes to Advents, though, go to script for the podcast, Lords. Links labels are going to be there for everything for Advents, where you can find them online, where you can follow them, and where you can listen to music, watch music videos. Everything is down there, so go check them out. Be sure to hit subscribe to the Chord Progression Podcast right down here on YouTube. Hit the follow button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to like the episodes because it helps push us in the algorithm. Also, be sure to go to script for the podcast where it says find Chord Progression Podcast online or find us online, and links labels for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are there as well, so go and check us out there. Thank you guys in Advents. Thank you, Thriller, InVogue Records, for another great signing. And on that note, that's going to be it for me today, everybody. Thank you very much for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of these episodes. Big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah.